So, I'll be your moderator. My name is Arnold Madiba. Tuko pamoja? Comrades power. Kuna power. Comrades power. Comrades power. Now, a very quick one. We'll be beginning in the next 2 minutes. Our panelists are here. We are starting shortly. I'd love to ask for your attention. So the guys who are talking, so that we move together. Number one, a little bit of housekeeping. All of you who come in here, ensure that you cleared with the people at the gate. You showed up your message. You were able to check in. For purposes of housekeeping, do not tell me that you came in, then you didn't check in, and therefore a transaction is not possible. Alafu iko ile watu kawaida ya watu wa Airtel. Kama ulipeana namba Airtel, pia deal with that much earlier. Even housekeeping, so we must talk. So our guests are here. Allow us all to stand. Let's all be upstanding. Let's all be upstanding for the national anthem. The national anthem and the ESC anthem. Thank you. Let's have our seats. Habari za asubuhi. Salimia jirani. At least nikisema habari nijibiwe. Habari za asubuhi. Machakos, habari za asubuhi. Mwati ndata. Mko wazima. Karibuni sana kwa UDA Comrades Town Hall, Lower Eastern Session. I'd like us to go to introduce our panelists and then get into a conversation right away. On the extreme end is a comrade, Sharon Mukai from Technical University. Just wave. She will be speaking for comrades and fielding questions on that end. Then we have got Mr. Haron Kertich, NEA from the National Employment Authority. Then we have got Mr. James Maina, the Director, National Housing. We have Professor Machuki, and a member of the Presidential Council of Economic Advisors. Then we have got the home girl, PS, Madam Terry Mbaika, PS Evolution. I have with me Madam Faith Nora Lukosi, Director, Youth Fund. And then Madam Magdalene Kivi, Assistant Director, Livestock Policy, will be sitting in for the PS Livestock. Thank you very much. So, having done the introduction, we'll give each and every panelist a question, first of all. I'll start from Professor Machuki. Before we have got any conversation, it will be very important that kindly pass the microphone for me. You can share the other one to the extreme end. Professor, we are here for students. Before we say anything, the elephant in the room is the new funding model. It's of course in court. So in 3 minutes, I'll allow you to just take us through the new funding model, why it's necessary, and why we are where we are today.
Comrades, power. Comrades, power. Thank you very much, Honourable Moderator. The UDA party leadership, spearheaded by the Secretary General, Mr. Omar Hassan, peers devolution, and all protocol observed. It is a great moment to be here so that we can engage with comrades. And I sit here to make clarification that as a Council of Economic Advisors for the President, we are the think tank for the President in terms of policy processing. And as you all know, the President is a champion of transformation, and that is why he wants to change the lives of everyone through the key principle and priority in the Kenya Kwanza bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is inclusivity. Among the aspects in society that require equity is provision of education that heralds the hallmarks of inclusivity. In that frame, within the better plan, education is earmarked as an enabler to ensure that everyone at the bottom of the economic pyramid is brought on board. At the very beginning and over time, students or children from humble backgrounds have far too long been excluded from accessing university education. Not only university education, but they have also been marginalized in the provision and access of basic education and also tertiary education. Upon analysis of the developments and policy mechanisms, as well as different programs in the education sector, for those of you who have gone through different reports that have been produced by different education commissions since independence, the issue of access, the issue of financing of education has been a thorny issue. And therefore, when the Kenya Kwanza administration took office, among the issues that were of concern was financing higher education, but most importantly within the entire realm of education reforms. And we are also aware that the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms engaged several stakeholders in different counties and were given a number of proposals on issues around implementation of competence-based education in Kenya through a competence-based curriculum. And therefore, among the issues that were of concern was university financing. At that point, a number of universities were having issues with regard to delivery of quality education because of funding. And what came about were two things. One, in terms of offering quality education, it will boil down to the programs that are being offered and the cost that is incurred in offering those programs. Number two is with regard to access by everyone who qualifies, then the exclusion of those who are at the bottom of the economic pyramid to have access to financing. So, in assessment of the previous funding model that is commonly called the differentiated unit cost, it was established that government was required to fund 80% of that differentiated unit cost, whose arrival at the cost of offering a program was not conclusive, it was not comprehensive. The differentiated unit cost considered some parameters that will then be aggregated to come up with an average cost of offering a program and not the exact actual cost. So that averaging left out a number of aspects that will go into the exact cost of the program, which will also go into the quality of delivery of that program. For example, a student who is undertaking medicine will require different facilities, the quality of the professors, the facilities in hospitals to be able to take clinical practice and so forth and so on. Same thing to the student who is doing law, the student who is doing economics, the student who is doing Bachelor of Commerce. The programs will cost differently and also depending on the universities. Now, when that was looked at, it was then argued that it is important to come up with the exact cost of offering the program. Because government is mandated to provide public goods to its citizens, education is among the public goods that government is supposed to offer to its citizens. But most importantly, to all citizens, regardless of the social class, regardless of the economic status. On that front, therefore, it was a concern that was brought on the table, and it was also advanced by the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, that we need to look at how university funding can be modeled. The previous funding was a grant to universities called capitation, and it was never found out that the students who are admitted to Machakos University, for example, the number will be established, and it was combining that once a student is admitted or picked by CUSPs and is admitted through government regular program, the funding will then be gone to the university based on the number of students, but not considering the exact cost of the programs each student is taking. That is one. So, in the new funding model then, we said, let not the placement be linked with funding. Because here is the university that receives capitation, because the university has a vote in treasury, and therefore you will find that every course which costs differently, it is funded at the same level, at the same rate, by way of capitation. The second aspect that we also looked at is that this funding is a differentiated unit cost, which means it doesn't take into account the exact cost. The new funding model, upon analysis, we noted that let us use a mechanism that will demonstrate the real need for a particular student in terms of determining the level of need by a way of the means testing instrument. So, what then happens is that when a student receives an admission letter from a university, the real cost of that program that you have been admitted for is indicated. And you are advised that you actually can apply for financial assistance from government. Either you apply for a loan, you can apply for scholarship, you can apply for bursary. Now, the real issue that was a concern is students from humble backgrounds and the students from backgrounds that are able will access funding the same level. So Omar Hassan here, who comes from a well-off family, and Machuki here, who comes from a very humble background, you will be receiving same funding. That means without looking at your economic power and your social background, that old funding model discriminates, does not give you equity, so that you both access. So the new funding model went in to start assessing the levels of need of the applicants. So on that basis, therefore, when a student receives a letter of admission, you are advised to apply. In the previous model, whether you apply or not, funding goes to the university through capitation. This new funding model, you are the one to exhibit, to demonstrate your level of need for funding. How did we come up with the determining the level of funding? That is where it's a major contention. And we used the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics data 2020, and we found out that households are classified depending on their economic annual income of a year, and we found that the lowest is 5,000 and below, and the highest is 120 and above. We used those clusters to then band students according to the annual incomes. But not only that, we then will ask students will be required to indicate particular data, particular information during their application. So when the information is received, the system then analyzes and categorizes you and places you at a particular level of need. So at the very low level is where you have very humble background, the most vulnerable. Government will give you the highest percentage of scholarship, the lowest percentage of loan, and the contribution from household is very minimal. As you graduate as you find those who come from able families, able backgrounds, the government will still fund you according to your level of need, but will give you a higher percentage of the loan, the lower percentage of scholarship, because the loan is higher because being able, you will be able to repay. The scholarship is free, and there is what we called the bursaries that will also come along that point. But the household contribution for the higher band is also high. So, when you look at the entire rationale behind